I ran to the boardroom because when your boss says now, you don't ask for context. My calendar had just flashed the invite. Emergency Executive Session 10. No agenda, no notes, just my name and his. If you've never worked in a place with frosted glass walls and cheap inspirational posters, let me translate that for you. It's either a promotion or they're about to cut something out of your life with a dull knife. The corridor outside the executive wing was too quiet. Usually you could hear phones, keyboards, someone laughing too loud at something the regional director said. That morning it was just shoe soles and air conditioning. Halfway down the hallway, I saw her. Emma, the board secretary. Usually she moved like a metronome, precise, unbothered, always hugging a folder. This time she was standing by the glass doors, empty-handed, staring at my meeting invite on her monitor like it was a crime scene. When she spotted me, her face did something I'd never seen before. It lost all the polite office neutral and went straight to panic. "Ethan!" Her voice was a harsh whisper. "Don't go in yet." I slowed, one hand still on the strap of my laptop bag. "What's going on?" She stepped closer, eyes flicking to the boardroom door behind her, then back to me. "You need to hide. It's a trap." The way she said trap made my stomach drop. Not dramatic, not joking. Just flat, like she was reading a diagnosis off a chart. I tried to laugh it off, because that's what you do when someone says something that could blow up your entire life. Pretty sure the only thing I'm hiding from is another slide deck. "I'm serious." She reached out and grabbed my sleeve, something she'd never done in 3 years of working together. "They've got a whole file in there. I heard your name. I heard misconduct and termination for cause. They told me to print the documents and leave, and they closed the blinds." I glanced past her. The boardroom was a rectangle of matte glass. The internal blinds were drawn all the way down, white slats cutting off any view of who was inside. That never happened. The whole point of those glass walls in this place was to make us feel like we were always being watched. "Who's they?" I asked. "Your boss? HR? Legal?" She swallowed. "Ethan, I don't know what this is, but it isn't a conversation. It looked rehearsed." My heart started punching the inside of my ribs instead of just beating. I hadn't done anything. At least, nothing meeting-worthy. No fake numbers, no side deals, no emails I wouldn't want read aloud. I'm boring by design. I complain about the coffee and stay late to fix other people's spreadsheets. That's my whole brand. "Emma, if I don't go in there, it's going to look worse," I said, even as my palms went slick. "If it's a misunderstanding, I clear it up. If it's not, I still have to face it." She shook her head. "You don't understand. They didn't look like they were trying to clear up anything. They looked like they were about to close a case." "Then hiding isn't going to help," I said quietly. She let go of my sleeve, frustration and fear fighting on her face. At least don't go in alone. Call someone, a lawyer, your union rep, somebody." "We don't have a union," I said automatically, corporate reflex, "and I don't have a lawyer on speed dial." "You might want one," she muttered. I checked my watch out of habit. 9:58. That stupid little line of text in my calendar glared back at me from my phone. Emergency Executive Session. The thing about working somewhere for 8 years is you start to believe the place owes you a little bit of fairness. I'd defended that company at family dinners, told people that the culture was actually pretty good, that our leadership was tough but honest. I'd believed it, or at least I'd wanted to. So I did the only thing that made sense to the version of myself who still believed in that. I straightened my tie, adjusted my grip on the laptop bag, and nodded at Emma like this was just another awkward meeting. "It's okay," I told her. "If I walk away now, I look guilty. I'm not." "Ethan, if you printed something with my name on it, I need to see it," I added. "Whatever they think they have, I'm not letting them read it over my empty chair." She pressed her lips together, then stepped aside. "Just, whatever happens, don't say anything without thinking. They want you off balance." "Noted," I said. My hand shook just slightly when I pushed open the glass door. You learn how to hide that kind of thing in corporate life. You can be falling apart inside, but as long as your PowerPoint loads and your voice doesn't crack, no one notices. The air in the boardroom was different, colder somehow, heavier. The overhead lights were dimmer than usual, more conference call than celebration. No coffee carafes, no pastries, none of the small bribes they usually rolled out for big meetings. At the far end of the long table sat my boss, Daniel Rourke. Tailored suit, silver hair that never moved, a tie that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He wasn't alone. To his left was Mariah from HR, her face already set in that careful, neutral expression they practice in a mirror. To his right, a guy I'd only seen in emails, James Chen, corporate counsel visiting from headquarters. He had a thin stack of papers in front of him and a pen he kept turning between his fingers. 3 chairs on their side, 1 chair on mine. "Ethan," Daniel said, voice smooth, like we were starting a normal one-on-one. "Have a seat." I took the chair opposite them, setting my laptop bag on the floor. No one smiled. No one reached for a handshake. The blinds behind them were fully closed, white plastic slats cutting off the city view. I'd sat in this room 100 times. Quarterly reviews, budget approvals, strategy sessions. I'd presented slides, cracked safe little jokes that made Daniel smirk, watched Mariah nod along when we talked about people initiatives. I'd never seen it look like this. "Is there a problem with the Q3 numbers?" I asked, trying to sound more puzzled than worried. Daniel folded his hands on the table. "We'll get to the numbers. Before we start, I want to make it clear that this is a formal meeting. Mariah is here as HR. James is here representing legal. Do you understand? Formal. Legal. There it was. The dull knife Emma had warned me about, gleaming on the table in the space between us. I understand that I walked into a room with HR and legal without being told why, I said. So maybe you should start with that." Mariah cleared her throat. She always did that before reading from a script. "Ethan, this meeting is to address serious concerns that have been raised regarding your conduct in your role as senior project manager. You are not under arrest. You are, however, required to participate in this internal investigation process as an employee." "Investigation? Conduct?" The words hit like someone had dropped them from a height. I forced myself to sit back instead of leaning forward like I wanted to. "What concerns?" James slid a manila folder across the table until it stopped in front of me. No label on the tab, just the faint smudge of a thumbprint. "Before you answer any questions, I'd like you to look through these," he said. His voice was calm, almost bored, like we were reviewing a contract clause. "Take your time." I glanced up at Daniel. His eyes didn't look angry. That somehow made it worse. Anger I could have handled. This looked like disappointment pressed flat until it became something colder. "You could have asked me about any issue before it got to this," I said quietly. "You know that, right?" He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was softer than I expected. "I hope, for your sake, that there is some kind of explanation," he said. "But what's in that folder? It doesn't look good, Ethan." I flipped the cover open with my thumb. The first page was a printed email, my name in the from field. Words I had never written staring back at me in black and white. The first email looked like a bad imitation of my voice. Too blunt, too sloppy. The kind of message you send when you're angry enough to forget you're writing to people who sign your paycheck. I read the lines twice just to make sure my brain wasn't trying to protect me. If the timeline slips again, I'll bury it in the budget and blame procurement. Don't loop Daniel in. He'll just micromanage. It wasn't just fake. It was surgically fake. Someone who knew the project. Someone who knew how I talked. Someone who knew exactly which nerves to hit. I kept flipping. There were 3 more emails, each worse than the one before. One confirming a vendor meeting that never happened. One giving approval for a payment no one in their right mind would authorize. One suggesting I'd circumvented compliance procedures to save time. Every page felt like a slow-motion punch. "This isn't me," I said, voice steady even though my pulse was sprinting. These are fabricated. James didn't blink. We're aware that's your position. My position is the truth. I looked at Daniel. You've known me 8 years. You honestly think I'd sign off on something like this? His eyes flicked downward. Guilt or calculation, I couldn't tell. It's not about what I think, he said. It's about what's on record. There it was. The sentence that told me everything. He'd already chosen a side, and it wasn't mine. But that was just the beginning, because beneath the emails were screenshots, Slack chats, supposedly from me, short messages casually damning, timestamp late at night. Just delete the older reports. No one checks. If compliance asks, say we flagged it. Daniel won't push back if we deliver something shiny. My throat went dry. I stared at the page, willing the text to shift, blur, reveal some mistake. Nothing. Perfectly forged. Perfectly poisonous. Mariah folded her hands. These messages came to us through an anonymous report. The screenshots were accompanied by a timeline that matches several irregularities in your project documentation. Irregularities? I almost laughed. Which irregularities? We'll get to that, she said gently. I leaned back in my chair, forced myself to breathe slow. So an anonymous report arrives with a neat package of copied emails and screenshots, all aligning with irregularities, and nobody thought that looked a little too convenient. James tapped his pen once on the table. Do you deny authoring any of these communications? I deny all of them. And do you deny modifying financial or project records to conceal delays? I deny everything you just implied. Mariah sighed like she hated being here. Maybe she did, but her job wasn't to feel bad for me. It was to push me toward the edge of the cliff and keep a record of the fall. Ethan, help us understand, she said. Is there anyone you know who might have wanted to discredit you? 1,000 small office memories shuffled forward like guilty suspects. People I'd corrected, people I'd outperformed, people who'd smiled too wide when I spoke. But one face pushed itself to the front. Marcus, project manager, senior title, my counterpart on the West portfolio, the guy who always bragged about playing the game, the one who smirked when Daniel praised me in meetings, the one who'd complained loudly that he deserved my promotion last year, but saying his name now would sound like desperation. It would hand them a motive on my behalf. So I lied, the only safe lie. No one. Daniel exhaled like he'd expected that answer and already decided it wasn't good enough. Ethan, look at the next page. I did. It wasn't an email. It was a spreadsheet, rows of financial adjustments, a timestamp next to each, all traced back to my login. My stomach turned cold. These are edits I never made, I said. It confirmed they originated from your account, James replied. Then Atit needs to check again. He didn't bother hiding the skepticism. Accounts aren't shared, logins aren't borrowed, and the timestamps coincide with late-night access. Late night. My mind snapped to it instantly. 2 weeks ago, I'd been working from home. VPN issues. 3 disconnects in one night. I'd complained to Marcus about it the next morning. He'd been the one who approved the remote changes on the back end. My spine went rigid. There's remote access exposure on those nights, I said. I had multiple VPN drops. You can check the logs. We did, James replied. The activity continued during the disconnect windows. That stopped me. So you think I logged out, logged back in instantly, made edits, and then used the outage as a smokescreen? Does that sound remotely plausible? We're not determining plausibility, he said. We're determining responsibility. I felt something shift inside me. Not panic, not fear. Something colder, sharper. A place in my mind I never liked visiting. Because suddenly it was too clear. Someone spent weeks building this. Someone with access. Someone with motive. Someone patient enough to stitch a net and wait for me to walk straight into it. And I had. But they didn't expect me to stay calm. They expected me to break. I flipped another page and another set of falsified messages stared back at me. But by now the shock was wearing off. A new feeling rose instead, something closer to irritation than fear, because whoever did this made mistakes. Tiny ones, but mistakes. The formatting on one email header was off by a single character. One Slack timestamp didn't match our system default. A spreadsheet calculation used a formula nobody in our department ever used. They had been careful, but not perfect. "Ethan," Daniel said, voice low, "we need your cooperation. This is going to move very quickly." I looked up at him, and in that moment, something inside me finally locked into place. "I'm cooperating," I said. "Is that just not in the way you expect?" Mariah blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means you should all stop talking for a minute," I said calmly, "and start listening. Because whatever story you think you've built here, it's missing pieces." And then silence. The kind that means something's gone wrong. Because for the first time since I walked into the room, all three of them seemed to realize I wasn't reacting the way a guilty man reacts. I leaned forward, pressing one finger on the folder. "You want to know who forged all this?" Their expressions tightened. I let a breath out slowly. "I don't have proof yet, but I know where to find it." The shift in the room was almost invisible, but I felt it, like pressure dropping before a storm. Three people who thought they were finishing a script suddenly realized the main character wasn't following their lines. James set down his pen. "Ethan, if you have information relevant to this investigation, you need to share it now." "Funny," I said. "That's exactly what I was thinking about all of you." I pushed the folder slightly forward, not aggressively, just enough to reclaim my side of the table. "First," I continued, "you said the edits happened during my VPN drops, which means someone was using my access when I wasn't connected. That narrows the suspect list to anyone with admin privileges or back-end clearance." James's jaw twitched. "Not much, but enough." "Second, whoever forged the Slack messages used a timestamp format we abandoned 6 months ago. IT changed the structure in April. The screenshots here, they're still using the old format." Mariah's eyes flicked down to the pages like they might rewrite themselves. "And third," I pulled a pen from my pocket and pointed to one specific email. "Header, the SMTP routing number here is wrong. Off by 1 digit. Our outbound server ends in 442. This one," I tapped it, "441, which means it was either generated offline or manually altered." Daniel's expression tightened into a deeper frown. He wasn't defending himself anymore. He was recalculating. James cleared his throat. "Are you suggesting an internal actor forged these documents?" "I'm suggesting someone in this building is dumber than they think they are," I replied, "and that whoever submitted the anonymous report wasn't expecting anyone to actually look." I let the words hang. Let them settle. Let them bite. Because I wasn't scared anymore. I was angry, and that was a better engine. James leaned forward, elbows on the polished table. "Do you have any evidence, actual evidence, to support your claims?" "Not yet." I met his stare. "But I know exactly where to get it." "And where is that?" he asked. I didn't answer immediately. I needed them off balance, uncertain, the way they'd tried to make me. I needed them to doubt their own choreography. So I turned casually toward Daniel. "You remember 2 months ago," I said, "when Marcus suggested consolidating our remote credentials for efficiency? The new system where he could approve reset requests after hours?" Daniel's face hardened. "Yes. That system logs every credential access, every remote override, every IP bounce, all of it." Now Mariah spoke. "Are you implying Marcus accessed your account?" "No." I smiled humorlessly. "I'm saying we can prove whether he did." That landed. Hard. James sat back slowly. That was the first real crack in his composure. "You understand," he said carefully, "that accusing another senior employee without proof is a serious matter." "Almost as serious," I answered, "as dragging someone into a staged ambush without checking the authenticity of the evidence." Mariah shifted, discomfort creeping across her face. She knew. Out of everyone in that room, she was the only one who might still have a conscience. "So here's what we do next," I said. "Right now, AITA pulls the server logs for the dates in question, every credential, every device, every remote session, and I stay in this building until those logs are reviewed." Daniel opened his mouth, but I didn't let him speak. "And if we're being thorough, we check who accessed the employee printer at 7:42 a.m. this morning." I tapped the folder. "Because these pages are still warm, and Emma didn't print them." This time the silence wasn't just tense. It was dangerous. James finally broke it. "We'll need some time to verify your claims." "You'll have it," I said. Then I added with quiet precision, "But I won't be suspended. I won't be escorted out. And I won't sign anything today. Because if you're wrong about me now..." I nodded at the documents. "You become part of the liability." A calculation flickered behind his eyes. He didn't like being part of anyone's liability. "Wait in the lobby," he said. "We'll call IT." "No," I replied. "I'll wait in Daniel's office with the door open. I'm not vanishing into a hallway where someone might lose another file." Daniel hesitated. Then he nodded, almost grudgingly. "Fine." I stood, grabbed the folder, and slung my laptop bag over my shoulder. As I reached the door, Mariah spoke softly. "Ethan, if someone really did target you, why? What would they gain?" I paused, then turned my head just enough to look at her. "You'll see." Because the truth was pulsing through my mind now, too sharp and too clear to ignore. Someone didn't just want me gone. They needed me gone, and they needed it to look justified. I stepped into the hallway, and Emma was waiting there, pale, nervous, twisting a pen between her fingers. "Are you okay?" she whispered. "For now." Did they show you everything?" "They showed me enough," I said, "but not what they didn't expect me to notice." Her eyes widened. "So you're really going to push back?" "Emma," I said quietly. "That was the moment I stopped being the hero." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm done playing fair." And as I walked toward Daniel's office, a strange calm settled over me. Not peace, not relief, something colder and steadier. Clarity. Because if they wanted a trap, they were about to find out I'd learned how to build one too. Daniel's office felt different with the door open. Less like a place where decisions were made and more like a stage waiting for the final scene. I sat in the guest chair, put the folder on my lap, and watched people pass in the hallway. Some glanced in, most didn't. The few who did looked away quickly. No one wants to make eye contact with a man who might be fired before lunch. Fine. Let them look away. I wasn't the one who should be afraid anymore. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Then the footsteps started, the fast, clustered kind you only hear when something has gone very wrong behind closed doors. James appeared first, phone in hand, lips pressed tight. Mariah came after him, and she couldn't hide the new tension in her shoulders. Daniel arrived last, slower, like someone bracing for impact. "Ethan," James said, "we've contacted IT. They pulled the logs. Good. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't give them anything." "And?" I asked. James hesitated. That was new. "There were irregularities," he said. I let the silence demand the rest. Finally, Daniel spoke. "Your account was accessed remotely on 3 of the 4 nights in question, each time from an administrative override." "Which admin?" I asked. James cleared his throat. "Marcus Hayes." There it was, clean and sharp, like a blade hitting marble. Mariah looked at me, shame flickering over her face. He had late-night back-end approval. He was reviewing project credentials for the integration rollout. That's what he told us when we signed off on the access. I nodded once. So the person who claimed he needed access to prevent delays used that access to manufacture them. James didn't deny it. "What about the printer logs?" I asked. Mariah held up her tablet. "Printed at 7:42 a.m. this morning from the 4th floor admin station." "Who logged in?" James didn't meet my eyes. "Marcus." A quiet exhale left my chest. Not relief, Not victory, just confirmation. Where is he now? I asked. In a conference room, Daniel said. HR is with him. Your HR or mine? I asked. Mariah flinched. Ethan? No, I said calmly. I'm not joining him if that's what you're implying. You don't get to put the accused and the accuser in the same room and call it balance. A long silence stretched over the office. Then Daniel did something I hadn't expected. He closed the door, just enough that the hallway noise faded. Ethan, he said quietly, I owe you an apology. I didn't let him finish. You owe me a correction, I said. Not an apology. He nodded slowly. You're right. I leaned back, folding my arms. So fix it. James adjusted his tie. We will be revising the internal report, clearing your name, and documenting the evidence tied to Marcus's actions. Good, I said. And the formal investigation? Shifted, James answered. Effective immediately. Mariah added softly, This should never have reached you in this form. The rush. The pressure. We were told the evidence was airtight. Told by who? I asked, though I already knew. Daniel rubbed his forehead. Marcus insisted you were compromising the project. He brought the initial concerns to my attention. Of course he had. Build the trap. Choose the victim. Pull the string. James produced a new document from under his arm, this time a single page. We'll issue a written statement clearing you, he said. Put it in your file. It won't affect your standing or your eligibility for promotion. I didn't take the paper. Try again, I said softly. James blinked. Excuse me? You think a clean file fixes this? Someone tried to destroy my career. You three delivered the knife, and now you want to hand me a memo? Silence again. I let the next words land with precision. You're going to put it on record that I cooperated, that every allegation was false, and that I remained in good standing throughout the investigation. And you're going to document that I identified the inconsistencies that prevented a wrongful termination. Daniel inhaled through his nose, guilty, cornered, agreeing. Done, he said. Good, I replied, because I'm not leaving this office until it is. James nodded, already pulling up a document template on his tablet. Mariah looked at me with something like respect. Ethan, I'm sorry. Truly. I didn't answer her, not out of cruelty, because I didn't need sorry. I needed truth on paper. It took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of typing, reviewing, revising, signatures, countersignatures. When the final version slid across the desk toward me, I read every line, slowly, thoroughly, and when I was satisfied, I signed. That's it? Daniel asked, almost cautiously. You're staying, then? I stood, picking up my bag. Daniel, I need you to understand something. He straightened. I didn't fight for this job, I said. I fought for my name. He opened his mouth, maybe to reassure me, maybe to save face, but I kept going. And now that it's clear, I'm done. Mariah's eyes widened. You're resigning? No, I said. I'm choosing. I placed my keycard on Daniel's desk. I'll finish the quarter remotely. Transition my projects. Clean handoff. Professional. But after that, I'm not giving another year of my life to a place where I have to prove I'm innocent before anyone asks if I might be right. James watched me with something like respect. Daniel looked away. I walked to the door. But before I opened it, I delivered the final line. Quiet, steady, and absolutely true. You wanted a trap. You built it well. But in the end, you stepped into it yourselves. I left the office, crossed the hallway, past the boardroom where they'd tried to bury me, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something settle inside me. Not triumph, not anger, not relief, just peace, the kind that comes when you know you didn't let anyone write your ending for you. Emma was still at her desk when I walked by. She stood when she saw me. Well, she whispered. It's over, I said. The right way. She let out a breath she'd been holding for an hour. Good, good. I was so scared They didn't, I said, and they won't. I pressed the elevator button. The doors opened with a soft chime. "Where will you go now?" she asked. I stepped inside, turning back just long enough to give her the only answer that felt honest. Somewhere I don't have to look over my shoulder to keep my own name. The doors slid shut, and just like that. The story ended where it should. Nothing left hanging. No questions. No unfinished business. Just a man, his quiet, and a life he finally gets to choose.